Join your host, Maddie Roach, as she brings you into a community of fee-only financial advisors who are successfully building profitable businesses that serve the next generation of clients. Learn from innovative advisors whose unique stories will inspire you to dream big and take action on your goals. Are you ready to live your best life and help your clients live theirs? Then you're in the right place.
Hello, and welcome to episode 331 of XYPN Radio. I'm Maddie Roach, your host. Today, I'm sitting down with two advisors who launched their firms in the past 6 months. Yes, this is different than the typical podcast we do. And that's because I've heard over and over that folks want an inside perspective on what it's really like in the first year. So instead of talking to people about how their first year was in hindsight, Elaine King and Scott Turner, fee-only RIA owners from Florida and Texas, respectively, share what it's like to figure things out right now while they're doing it. Elaine and Scott both come with impressive experience and financial confidence, but today you'll hear them talk about what keeps them up at night, technology and imposter syndrome, and what they recommend others do to prepare to get a running start. You can feel their excitement and optimism throughout the recording, but things get real when I ask them to rank from A to F how well they think they're actually doing running their firm. If you're interested in hearing what 6 months feels like while it's actually happening, then this episode is going to be for you. A firm isn't a firm without clients. As the chief marketing officer of your RIA, the most important job you have is guiding prospects through your marketing funnel and converting them to clients. If your funnel has a leak, you could be spinning your wheels and missing opportunities. Mapping your funnel is the first step towards developing an effective marketing strategy and a valuable tool for evaluating the health of an existing one. Download our free template and map your funnel at xyplanningnetwork.com/funnel. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN radio listeners. It's a community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Good morning, Scott and Elaine. Welcome to XYPN Radio.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have both of you. Scott, I'll have you start us off, but go ahead and introduce yourself and your firm to the listeners.
Sure thing. My name is Scott Allen Turner. I am the founder of Rockstar Financial, which is just 6 months in business now.
Yeah.
I've been in personal finance for the past 8 years, and that led me to this spot in my journey of opening up a firm. Call myself a former money moron, and now I help people get right with their finances.
I love it. And listeners, you did hear Scott right. Scott is 6 months into his firm. Elaine is just about there as well. And as I said in the intro, this is a podcast all about what it's like to literally be in the middle of your first year. And often we have folks on 2-3 years into their running their business, but this episode is extra special. So Elaine, why don't you introduce yourself and what you've built this year?
Oh, sure. Yeah. My name is Elaine King. I am from Peru originally. I'm the founder of Family and Money Matters. My firm was approved at the end of July, so technically August. I think it's 4 months in. And I've been in the financial service industry for the last 20 years, working for very large corporations. And one day I just thought, you know what? I want to do this for myself. So I took a deep breath and I took the courage to do it. And I'm not looking back so far.
We're going to talk all about why you both decided to jump into entrepreneurship. But first, Scott, would you mind sharing a little bit of the data you have around your firm? Who do you serve? How many clients so far? And of course, we know you're in your first year. So
Sure. Currently I have 5 clients, and I'm doing the slow roll approach because I treat this as a lifestyle business. And what I do is serve the financial independence, retire early community. I mean, retire early is kind of a misnomer. It's a financial independence community, which are people who generally want to leave a spot that they're in, career, whatever it happens to be, and want to have more fun, more freedom, more time with their family and those type of things. And they're typically very nerdy and into their money. They know a lot of stuff. They're very smart people. And I've had financial independence for over 15 years myself. So I live that lifestyle and I help people achieve that lifestyle dream of theirs.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I adore the slow roll start to building a firm. And we'll talk about why you took that approach here in a minute. But Elaine, would you like to tell the listeners about the number of clients you serve currently, and how this first 4 months has been?
Sure. Yeah. I serve currently 10. I see them as families because usually if it's, the individual with the kids or the mother or the husband. So I'm working with 10 household relationships at this time. And mostly they have family businesses or family enterprises. And I look a little bit beyond financial planning. What else is, involved in governance and intergenerational wealth.
Fabulous. Well, you both have really defined niches for being just a few months in. Elaine, how has it been for the past 4 months? How do you feel?
Well, I have to say that if it wasn't for XYPN, I really didn't know what I needed. And I feel like I have a structure. I know I'm not there yet. Like out of 10 things I should have, I think I have 5. And I know I'm in compliance, thanks to the community. I'm not violating anything. That's good. But I feel, I guess, hopeful and for 2022 that I have a big brother or a big sister looking after me, which is XYPN. I mean, it's just a structure.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, I love that. Hopeful. What a beautiful word to use in your first few months. Scott, how do you feel 6 months in?
I feel good about the trajectory of where I'm going on. It's been fun. I love the XYPN family. So as a person who's hosted a podcast, coached a lot of people over the years, I would always refer people out to XYPN for questions that I was not qualified or legally allowed to answer. And I had friends in that community. So I said, all right, you need some really detailed answer on this. Go to XYPN. That's where all the cool folks are. And you can find somebody who's fee only and would fit your model there. And then I eventually rolled into this position where, all right, where should I go to open this thing up? Oh, I know this XYPN. Let me go check out that. And it served me very, very well.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So Scott, we'll stay with you for just a minute. What prompted you to start your firm? I ask this question frequently on the podcast, but it's still so fresh for each of you about the reasons you did it. And I'm wondering, just a year or so ago, 2 years ago, maybe for you, what was going on in your mind and heart when you decided that you wanted to launch your own fee-only RIA?
Sure. And I had never planned on it and I never even wanted to. I started working with my own certified financial planner, my wife and I, in 2005, just after we got married, because my wife said, we need somebody to manage our money. We just got married. We need combining finances. Not that we had a lot of it. And she said, that's not going to be you. So I had to go out and find somebody. And we ended up working with him up until the beginning of last year, 2021, when I sadly went to him. So 16 years I was with this guy. And said, hey, I'm opening up my own firm. It's time for us to part ways. And what prompted that was building this personal finance business over the years. I'd help people, okay, let me help you get out of debt. All right, we achieved that. And then some people come with these detailed questions. And then I was basically a week away from not even opening up a firm. My wife was in real estate. We're like, let's go flip some houses. And we had moved out into the country because of COVID, which had a negative impact on the business I was running. Had to shut down my live production studio, which I was doing 3 days a week. And we thought, let's do some real estate. We've got some rentals. Let's flip some homes. And we looked at a few where we were living and they were in just dilapidated states. Like, this is more than we can chew. Got a few inquiries via email. People were looking for business coaching and can you help me with this in my life? And several inquiries about, can you help me with personal finance thing? And I talked to my wife. It's like, hey, why don't you use that CFP certification you've got and put it to some use because you've already got this audience and stuff. It's like, all right, I will go look into opening up my own firm and see how that goes.
Wow. One more question to you, Scott. It's not often that folks just kind of decide on a whim to start their firm. Was it because the previous business you were running was shut down and you just needed an option, or did you feel a real draw towards this community given you'd been working with them for so long?
Part of it was I felt an obligation because people are coming to me for help and I'm turning them away. And from that, it's like, oh, there's also a business opportunity here. I can help them support the lifestyle that we have as well. And then some of it was, I just have a great love of personal finance and helping people with their money. And that's really appealing to me. I've had success in life. This is something that would allow me to have some significance in other people's lives.
Oh, I love that. The natural business opportunity that was presented to you right upon COVID. Elaine, talk to us about what drew you to starting your own firm. You've been in the business for years, and it's not every day someone wakes up and says, let me go start the business.
Yeah, I think it was to register as an IRA. It came because of COVID, because before COVID, I work with families and I used to travel every month and do conferences, keynotes, and then my clients will hire me after, the conference, after the educational. And with COVID, I stopped traveling. And the clients that I was starting to work with, because in the state of Florida, you can have 10 clients without being registered. So I technically didn't have to register. But then I thought, you know what? I'm not traveling. And then I realized, Maddie, that when you travel, there's so much time involved. It's not only going there, but it's the time to get there, to board, to unpack. I mean, all that stuff I never thought about. So I thought, you know what, let me be more, smarter with my time. And the people that during COVID, they were curious about investing. And so I started with the kids of my clients. They were like, we have an inheritance here. We're getting divorced or something like that. And I thought, well, let me dip my toes on it. I've done it for big firms. I manage $1 billion portfolio for Bessemer Trust. And I advise 5,000 consultants in Wall Street, and we manage $13 billion. So I had the knowledge somewhere in my head. I knew it. I just never did it on my own. So I took a leap of faith, and I started managing a little bit here, a little bit there. I started managing mostly on the dips. And thank God it's been good. I know that it's not always up, but I manage my clients' portfolio like I manage my own, and I've been managing my portfolio for over 20 years. So I'm very, very careful. I tell my clients or prospects, whoever wants to double their money, go somewhere else. I'm just preserving your money and making it grow, at a steady, safe rate.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, I love that both of you started these firms in the middle of a global pandemic, and almost as it wasn't completely planned. Scott, how do you feel like you were prepared to start your firm, whether or not you knew you would be doing it since you were little? What did you bring to the table that made you feel like, yep, I'm competent enough to do this?
Certainly working with my own financial planner for 16 years. And he would joke periodically over that time. It's like, hey, you should come work for us. I mean, you've got the smarts to do this. It's like, no, that's not really what I wanted to do. And every time I would put him off. And then probably during the pandemic, or when I was talking to him about opening up a firm, or he would occasionally joke, you come work for us. And then I thought about, it's like, yeah, but then I'd have to show up at a specific time and I'd get 2 weeks of vacation.
Right.
That really doesn't fit my lifestyle with twin 8-year-olds, somebody who loves to travel and have a lot of flexibility. And then the income limits on that as well.
How do you feel like you were prepared for it?
I had the financial smarts, definitely. Most of them. During that process, I went out, and a lot of people, not a lot, but some people in the financial independence community do this. They say, I want to go take the CFP education component just so I know it. And that was me. I didn't know estate planning. I didn't know insurance. Those were my weak areas when I was just talking and coaching people. So I'll sign up and I'll get the education. And then I was like, well, I think I'll just go ahead and take the test and see if I can pass it. And then I'll just tell people, well, I'm not a CFP, but at least I passed the test. That should count for something.
Totally.
And then ended up getting the CFP as well. So it's a bit of a natural progression. And then what XYPN really helped plug in was the framework around running a business. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that's helped out tremendously, being able to tap all those resources and the amazing community as well.
Beautiful. Elaine, you mentioned your technical experience. What do you feel like you also brought to the table that made you feel confident enough to do this?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Oh my God. I guess my creativity. I always, in all the firms, and I'm very grateful for everything that I learned in the largest banks in the world with that 5,000 people and everything. I learned so much, but I was a type of person that always looked at something and always wanted it to get in, I had an idea for it to see it better. And whenever I went to, the powers to be, they were like, oh yeah, that's cute. I mean, yeah, maybe one day, or that sounds good, but put a request order. And I thought, no. I mean, I can make a difference here. And whenever I would spend time with clients, I wanted to spend more time with clients. I felt that I could go a little further with a client. And in big corporations, you need to follow a lot of structure. I understand it. I get it. It's important. But at some point, you need to write your own path and do what you love. I mean, for the second phase of your life, I've been working for 20 years. So I know I have more than 20 years and I want to write it on my own terms. Compliance and within compliance, of course, but I don't know. I just wanted to give it a shot.
Kudos to you. Wonderful. How were you financially when you started your firm? Did you feel like you had 1, 2, 3 years worth of runway leading up to launching your firm, or what kind of economic decision was this for you?
Yeah, so similar to Scott, I've been doing financial plans for clients for a long, long time. And one of the things that I always say is that I know that Kitsy's goes back and forth with the 5 and 4%, but you need to have 4% or 5% of your fixed expenses. When I started my career, if I added all my net worth, I had the fixed expenses. So I was fortunate, I guess, to be able to cover my fixed expenses. Yeah. Now, let's be clear here. We have fixed and variable, right? So could I go around the world? No. Could I pay the rent? I mean, a mortgage? Yes. Could I pay my cell phone? Of course, I indefinitely. So I could live on my fixed budget. In perpetuity, basically. So that was good. So whoever is listening and it's thinking about it, don't think that you need to save a lot of money. What you need to do is be very lean with your fixed expenses. And, things like that are good to have, maybe you don't need, you should put them on the side and have a fund for that. But your fixed expenses should be lean, I think. And that includes debt, reducing debt.
Great. Scott, you mentioned you were financially independent a decade or so ago. How did that impact your decision to start your firm?
You have a lot more flexibility in the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis when you're not saddled with debt or financial obligations. There's not this voice in the back of your head speaking to you, say, you got to make this sale this week or else. When I've worked with business owners over the years, it's the same thing. When you're coming from a place of abundance and you've got a cushion, a runway, whatever you want to call it, you can make wise decisions. The business owner who doesn't have that stuff, they're making, well, we got to have a sale. We're going to have a fire sale. We're going to have a January 1st sale, Black, whatever it happens to be. And they're just basically giving away stuff just so they can get to the next week or the next paycheck, whatever it happens to be. So I had a long runway to try to succeed with this business. It also goes back to some great advice Elaine gave. I've been a serial entrepreneur for 20 years. When I branched out on my own, had a couple business partners and I was doing a side gig. And I went to them and say, I need to make X number of dollars and then I'll leave my full-time job and then I'll go do this thing. And I had taken a 65% pay cut, but I also had 6 months of expenses in the bank. So that was my 6-month runway. It was make or break. I could always go out and get another job in IT. That was my original career if I needed to. And that was a wise choice that allowed me to make those decisions, double down on one business and making way more money than I was making at my corporate job when I finally branched out and did my own thing.
Beautiful. Elaine, what do you think it would have been like had you started your firm 15 years ago, maybe without the kind of financial comfort that you had when you did it?
Oh my God, 15 years before I was scared. I was scared, foolishly scared, because now I look back and I'm like, what? 15 years ago, I bought a condo for 100. I sold it for 300. And I thought, okay, I have a little bit of money, but, whoever's young and doesn't have enough money, it's okay. You have time to borrow money, time to make more money. You don't need $1 million to start your IRA. Well, did I? Yes. But, I think, I mean, I'm sorry to talk about this, Maddie, but I think women, because I've studied women and men and how our brains work.
Right.
Women, we need to know like double, or we need like 3 times more confidence to jump on the pool. And I didn't jump on the ocean. I jumped on the pool, and then on a lake, and then on a pond, and then in an ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned this before in our practice. I started a nonprofit organization because I wanted to have an idea of what it felt like to actually get paid without a paycheck. You know, what does that feel like? So I knew that I couldn't have another business because, you know, these large corporations don't let you work for profit. So I started a nonprofit. And then when I saw that people were actually paying for my book or paying for a conference, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gaining confidence. So you gain confidence on the side. You could do that. And then you start doing the numbers and you're like, okay, hold on a second. I think I can do this. And then you have time again. So what? If it goes well, awesome. If it doesn't, then learn from it and do it better and join with another partner. I know a lot of XYPN that, you know, we would joke about it, but we're like, okay, maybe one day we should join because we're for different states. One person is very good with tech, another person's very good with accounting, another person's good with people. We could easily join.
Totally.
So the sky's the limit, I think.
Do you regret not opening it earlier?
No, I had to learn. I think I opened it when I had to, the nonprofit. So like 10 years ago. So like, kind of like what you said, like 10, 15 years ago, I opened the nonprofit and I think I did a lot of good deed in the community. Yeah. And I think that's who I am. I like to help people first. So now I'm trying to do from the nonprofit to the profit, I'm trying to do a B corporation.
Got it.
And I encourage a lot of my clients to do as ESG and value-added investing. So, yeah, I was able to mix it, but regret, not really, because my parents, my grandparents were business owners, all of them. And my dad was a Fortune 500 CEO. And he told me that, you know, the best thing I can do is work for the same company forever. So there were a lot of years of taking back that in order for me to have confidence.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And what an incredible example between you two that, Scott, you've been starting and running firms and closing them and opening them for a decade or more. And we just heard from Elaine kind of reiterate what we know about women, which is that it takes a lot more confidence to do that. Scott, do you feel like you timed this one well, and would it have been different in terms of experience for you had you started 10 or 15 years ago?
I certainly would have had a much larger firm 10 or 15 years ago. I think anything we go back 10 or 15 years, you have to think about all the technology that's changed. Right. I mean, we've got YouTube and social media and all these different things now. So anybody who tapped into those 10 or 15 years ago, they're a giant. But the same thing, those people that are starting today, they're going to look back 10 or 15 years from now and all the things that we don't even know about that's coming around. And we're going to look back, wow, I'm really glad I started this 10 or 15 years ago. Look at all the things that came out and have changed and have contributed to the growth of my business. So it's like one of those investing sayings, maybe it's from Buffett or whoever, the best time to plant an acorn is today, or the second best time is yesterday. I probably got that backwards, but
yeah, I like
that person who planted that oak tree 30 years ago, they're sitting in the shade, and well, second best time is today, whatever. So yeah, get out there, and I encourage people to get going on it, because the sky is pretty much the limit. The pie is infinite in this space. When you think of, there's 10,000 people retiring every single day.
Mm-hmm. And trillions of dollars that women are going to be having to manage.
Yeah. The optimism of both of you is so wonderful to hear this early in. Elaine, going back to kind of what you were just saying, I'm interested if you could speak directly to maybe our less confident listeners. How can they be looking at their current careers and the roles that they're in, and source inspiration or experience from that? How did you use and leverage your former career currently as a business owner?
Yeah, so the way I did it is I started doing a lot of educational workshops on the side. I started gaining confidence, because one thing is for your boss to tell you did a good job. Another thing is for a stranger that, they have no interest in telling you they did a good job or not. So I started volunteering a lot in the community on workshops with financial literacy.
Cool.
And then I started taking feedback forms. So that built confidence with me. Then I started writing a book of my experiences. And when I wrote a book of my experiences, I had to house it somewhere, and I housed it on my 501c. And then when I went to Latin America and Peru, I wanted to launch a nonprofit too. And I didn't have the guts to do it. So I convinced my PR firm to be my partner. Because I didn't have the confidence to do it. I was like, I have the idea, but I need somebody to hold me accountable. And I was good with numbers, not so good on the marketing side. She was amazing with marketing, and she had the network. I had the idea. So we did really good. We got to the US Embassy in Peru. We trained 600 employees, from the ambassador to the gardener. We did so many good things, and that kept building confidence. And like I said, I mean, Scott is a male, of course, and he could probably do it with 75% of confidence. I need 125. So I needed to do all these workshops. I needed 600 feedback forms. I needed all this stuff. But if you're working full time, you don't have time. So you need to do community service. I think you need to look for that feedback, so that it can build confidence on you. And volunteer at work. If you're at work, like, do extracurricular activities. That's what I did. I was on the board of the Financial Pen Association for 10 years.
There you go. Great advice. Totally get involved, network, and volunteer. Pivoting just a bit, the two things advisors always really struggle with early on, outside of confidence and some of those things we just talked about, are who's your niche and how are you going to charge? Both of you have already explained your niches, and it sounds like it's working well for you. But Scott, did you know how you were going to charge, and how quickly did it take you to get there? How much iteration did it take over the past 6 months to settle on your fee structure?
I probably already changed it 2 or 3 times.
Okay, what is it and what was it?
Here's what I did, and here's a cheat code for everybody that's listening for whatever you're trying to accomplish. I hopped on the XYPN website where you can search for the advisors, and I looked through all the advisors that were targeting a specific or similar audience to what I had. And then I had put together a little Excel, Google spreadsheet website. Here they're doing, here's your initial fee, here's what you're charging per month, here's your assets under management. And I came up with like 20 of them. And then I started going through that and kind of whittled down what I wanted to do and how I would differentiate myself a little bit. Launched with that. And then after I actually started working with people or doing more research, like, I'm not charging enough. After actually putting in the hours, like, I'm just going to jack my rates through the roof. And I realized probably a couple, 3 years ago from a very big person who's big in the business, you can be the cheapest person in the space and race to the bottom. You can be the Walmart, or you can be the most expensive. And I knew with my experience, what I've accomplished over the past 8 years, being an author, a podcast host, like, I'm going to go on the opposite end. I'm going to charge the most. So if you want to work with me, great. And if you don't, I'll gladly introduce you to somebody else who may be more in line with what you want to pay. But I'm going to charge a premium because I know the value that I bring to what I do for the audience that I'm serving.
Oh, wonderful. Elaine, what was your process for landing on how you charge?
Okay, so being a salary person for the majority of my career, that's the hardest thing for me. And that's the most XYPN has helped me with, because I hear, young CFPs or young advisors say, I charge $350 an hour, and here I am charging $200, so that gave me a lot of confidence, because I thought, you know what, let me level up at least. But also, I encourage everybody to think about what you want your firm to look like in 5 years. 10 years ago, Maddie, I would tell myself, I want to serve 10 families and make $1 million. And it's still the case. So the families that I serve have either 20 or $100 million. They haven't given it to me yet, but I advise over it. I learned that model from working at family offices. So I don't discriminate. Yes, I have clients that have $1 million, but I say to them, I need to keep my assets under management high in order for me to give you this value that you can call me any day. You can ask me anything you want, and you have a whole, thing of how do you say, network. I can save you time. And so anyway, so think about who you want to be. I don't want to be a network with 1,000 clients managing $1 billion. That's not, no, I want to serve 10 families. And I want to become I want to stay as a boutique. Maybe a year from now, we'll have this call and then I have 20 clients, but, because I have to be realistic about it. But you need to have a 10X goal, right?
Right.
Like Tim Ferriss says.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Elaine, we'll stay with you for just a moment. What do you think was the hardest part of the past 4 months for you?
Wow. The hardest part has been keeping up with tech.
Talk about that.
Because I'm part of a coaching team, right? And for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm the weakest link. I have 8 or 7 XYPN members. They all have, all these tools, and I'm always the one taking notes. And it's the hardest thing is to keep up with them because they're doing, the CRM tool and they're doing this. I must confess, I don't even have a CRM tool. I know how Smart IRA works. I don't use it too much, but that's been the hardest thing. The rest is easy. I mean, if you manage your own portfolio, you can manage money. I tell my clients, I take more care of you than my own portfolio. So that's the easy part. To do financial planning is the easy part too, because I love it. The hard part for me is keeping up with the technology, and XYPN does an amazing job with that because they always, push us to listen to webinars.
Yeah,
I get emails every week saying, did you do this? Did you do that? So, good. And that saves time. So it's for my own good. I know it.
Totally. Thanks for sharing that. Scott, what would you say has been the hardest part of the past 6 months for you?
Really drilling down into a niche or niche, as depending on how you want to say it. And we learned that in the launch training early on. That was part of the thing that we went through. And as people work with money, financial planners, everybody listening, we all have our superpowers and we're all very, very smart at what we do. And we have this true belief that we can help everybody. And that's true. We could. But when you're helping everybody, you're actually helping nobody because we're so broad and so disorganized and spending so much time helping the 20-year-old with college student loans and then trying to help the 70-year-old widow who's got a bunch of money to deal with. And it stretches us too thin. So I tried to narrow it down. That's when I finally realized I'm in this financial independence community. That's who I want to focus on. And even though could take longer to ramp up for somebody who's like, I'm going to go out there and help anybody, I think long-term, that's going to be more beneficial. And then when someone does that, you're known as the go-to person for that particular thing, which allows more growth, in my opinion, later on.
If we were to ask maybe your twin kids and your partner about how you've changed in the past 4 months, Scott, now that you've been running your own firm, what would they say has changed?
I think a progression of mine, even over the past couple of years, is I'm prioritizing more happiness and joy and what's going to bring the most fulfillment in life. And part of that is business. One of the things that people can benefit from who are thinking about starting or just getting started is your favorite word should be no. No, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to help this particular person. And that's going to free you up to do what is most important in your life. So I'll happily turn down a client that isn't a good fit. And I've done this in the past. That could have been very profitable. But saying no to those people is going to allow me to spend more time with my kids and enjoy the things that I like to do in my free time, give more to those clients who are the better fit.
Beautiful advice. Elaine, what do you think has changed most about yourself in the past 6 months?
Well, I took on my childhood sport again, golf.
Oh, look at
I hadn't played in like, I don't know, over 20 something years.
Wow.
And now I joined the women's league. They play on Monday mornings at 8 in the morning. So you know what? I don't do it every Monday, but I do it once a month. Why not?
Yeah.
So I went to play golf with my husband, who doesn't play, but I convinced him. So things that you would not be able to do if you were on a 9 to 5. So I spend more time with my parents. Of course, I'm not going to lie. I work hard. Of course, I have 12-hour days sometimes, even 16. But you know what? I can take off whenever I want. If there's a beautiful day, I bought a boat. I live on the water. So why not? I take off on a Friday. I go to the island and I enjoy it. And I know that my clients are taken care of. So it gives you more independence of how you want to direct your time. Of course, if I take off on a Friday, maybe you'll find me working on a Sunday. But you know what? It's okay, because a Sunday, it was raining. And on a Friday, the day was beautiful. So you get to choose your days. You get to choose your activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, have you had any sleepless nights since you launched your firm? And if so, what were they about?
Well, they weren't about money or paying the bills or anything like that. I am kind of obsessive when it comes to personal finance. So if my brain starts spinning on ideas, that can keep me up at night, because I love what I do. Like Elaine says, try to build a lifestyle business where people working in corporate life, maybe they're thinking about branching out. And I've been there before. Your lifestyle and your free time plugs into where your work does not. And then when you're running your own firm, your work plugs in to where your lifestyle is. So it's the exact opposite. I kind of call it your work fills in the cracks of all the fun stuff that you're doing in your life. So the stuff that keeps me up at night, just because I love what I do so much, is how do I serve my clients better? What resource can I create for them? What can I write for them? What can I put on a podcast show? Is there another book I could write, or different ways that I could help them get further along more efficiently or effectively?
Beautiful. Elaine, have you had any sleepless nights? And if so, what were they over?
Oh my God, no.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe, when am I going to buy my ticket to my birthday? I don't know, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I get to, go to the place I want to go on my birthday, take off whenever I want. I do work a lot, but sleepless nights, thank God, no. And for those who are listening, you're probably thinking, oh, she plays golf and a boat. You know what? It's a 9-hole public course. It's $20. And my boat is not a yacht. You could still have the lifestyle. You don't need like the gazillions of dollars. So, and yes, the trip, I'm buying it with miles. So, you just get to get creative. And because I'm independent, I can go where I want to go on the days that I can use less miles.
Okay.
I don't have to travel when everybody else is traveling. So that's the fun part too.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm interested in talking about kind of the advice you have for folks who haven't launched and folks who are also kind of your peers right now in terms of just in this first year. But before we get there, you both are authors. And I don't think I realized it when I matched you up together on this podcast. But Elaine, can you tell us a little bit about what being an author has brought you in terms of confidence or capabilities around effectively running your firm?
Yes, sure. So to talk a little more about what Scott was talking about, the niche. So the books have helped me identify the niche because I start writing because I thought I would save the world, helping teenagers all over to have financial literacy. And that's important. But I compete with like all the large banks in the world. And, I try to go into the school system. All these big credit card companies have gazillions of dollars, forget that. So then I start working with kids, more smaller kids. And then the moms were the ones that were asking me for more information. So that's how I started identifying that my niche is women. I wrote The Colors of Your Money, Your Plan, Your Life Plan, Family Enterprise Next Generation, but for women, so the more I knew who was buying the book, and I did a little bit of a test. I went to the Miami International Book Fair, and there were like 15,000 people, I think, in a whole week or something like that. And then all the people that would buy my book were women. I went to the bathroom, I kid you not. I had my cousin who's a male. And when I went to the bathroom, yes, I saw, the male sold the male to males. But I realized that women like women to talk to them. And men, I mean, most men, sorry, Scott, you tell me otherwise, don't like women telling them how to manage their money. So yes, I have male clients, but mostly female clients. So that's how I was able to identify my niche, writing books.
Fabulous. Scott, how has publishing your own book and being an author impacted your success here?
Yeah, it definitely helped grow my personal brand. I wrote my first book in 2016. And it came about kind of the same way the firm came about. People kept coming to me saying, I need specific financial advice. Well, in 2015, I was hosting a talk show and people kept asking me the same question over and over and over again. It's like, how do I get started investing? So I went out, I bought every book I could on beginning investing and found out they all had certain things that they lacked. So I ended up writing one, and it was stuff that was all in my head already. Wrote it out, the first draft, in about a week, and then had it published shortly thereafter. Not shortly, a few months. I've ended up selling almost 20,000 copies of it. It's just a beginner's guide to investing, and it was super simple. I challenged myself. I wanted to make it fifth grade simple. You can read it in 99 minutes or less, depending on your reading speed. And I know I wanted to just be different. So I threw a cookie recipe in the back because I like doing weird stuff like that.
Cool.
To me, being an author is the ultimate calling card. And people who are listening, they probably get overwhelmed at the thought of writing a book. But when you have a system, which I followed for that particular book, it's very, very easy to write a book. Not knowing how to do it is overwhelming. But when you have a system or process, you can knock it out really easily. And it gives you an extra layer of authority that most people will never have.
Do you feel that as well, Elaine, an extra level of authority?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It helps with the media too. It helps with a niche, and also, of course, like in Peru. Well, I'm from Peru, of course, but I sold 10,000 copies to the largest bank in Peru, and so there you go. Some prospects came along, created the whole wealth and well-being system of a bank with what I wrote from the book. So of course, yes, it creates a lot of confidence. I guess the theme of today, my site is confidence. It gives you confidence. And that's what you need to launch your registered investment advisor, because you need to justify the price you're paying, right? And you need to have confidence, and that's the best investment.
Love it. Elaine, you mentioned that technology has been the one area that feels like it slows you down. If you're talking to someone in the industry who has not launched their firm yet, maybe they're a year or so away from doing so, what would you say they should be doing right now to prepare for starting their firm?
Oh, so they should think of systems. So Scott mentioned it earlier. We are from an older generation, right? But the newer generation, the 20-somethings right now that want to start their own firm, or even the early 30s, they should start in technology from the start. Even if you have one client, just put it on the CRM. Don't do what I did, that I put it on Excel. So now I have all these prospects in Excel with no emails. And that's what's slowing me down. And my Outlook doesn't talk to Excel. So I'm going to have to spend half a day probably to just put all the emails with the prospects. So my advice to you, if you're listening, and even if you're 60 years old, who cares? Yeah. Just start with technology, because don't think the perfect time to merge everything. Just start there. Even if you don't have enough information, just do it. If you have one client, use Capitec, use Right Capital, I'm having a hard time because I have to merge stuff. That's what's slowing me down to adapt to new systems. Just use it. And if you don't have anybody, just put yourself in. Why not? That's how I started my career. When I started with offshore mutual funds, and I put all my family in offshore mutual funds. And that's how I learned.
Great advice. Scott, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about launching their firm? What can they be doing today to get themselves set up for success?
Start building their email list. So an email list is a golden goose when it comes to not just this industry, but any industry. It's not Facebook or any of the social media challenges or platforms. People check their email every single day.
Mm.
And the person who may not be interested in financial planning today, it might take them 18 months or 36 months to decide. If they're on your email list and you're regularly sending them correspondence, just a simple newsletter once a month, you're always staying top of mind compared to other people who may fall off their radar. And you never know, when someone might not be ready for planning today, it may take them a while to come around. But when you do that consistently over time, they're going to come to you first. And even for somebody who's not, or somebody who's working for one of the big corporations or wirehouse, whoever, you can go out and just provide basic educational information, which is not a violation of compliance or anything. And then start sending out newsletters, collecting those contacts and staying in touch with them so that when you are ready to launch, it's like, hey, here I am. Come hop on board. I'm ready to help you now.
Yeah. And when you say email list, Scott, are you thinking like just prospective clients, or are you using your network generally and in terms of, who goes on the list and who maybe doesn't make the list?
Really, it's what we want to make sure people do want to be honest. We want to ask permission first. We don't want to be sending out spam, but something like record some YouTube videos and then you have a link, go sign up for my email list, or you can do that on any of the social media platforms. You don't even need a website, Instagram, or wherever it happens to be. And then those people will get plugged in there, and depending on the content that you're sending out. So it's really, the people are going to decide whether they want to be on the list or not versus the person or the potential future planner deciding whether they want to be on it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great advice.
Maddie.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love all the stuff that Scott said. And in addition to that it helped me was I told my CPA, I told my attorney, I told my own advisors, and they're the biggest sources of referral. Because, Google ads and all that stuff that we talk about sometimes, it helps, but people do business with people that they know and they're referred. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's what people should start doing. Tell your CPA, tell, your mother, my parents are my biggest sources of referral. Tell your family members, they're going to be the biggest sources of referral.
Totally. Really, really good advice. Scott, what would you say is you're most nervous about? And let's be honest about the realities of taking control of a small business on your own. You've got kids to support and a number of years of good working ahead of you. What are you most nervous about with regards to this firm?
Imposter syndrome is what they call it. And that's where you think, oh, I don't know something. And someone's going to ask me a question that's going to stump me. I call it stump the chump.
Stump a chump.
Yes, stump the chump. So for anyone that's listening, you know what? That is absolutely true. You're going to get stumped. Totally. And you're not going to know the answer. So here's the two important things that come down to that. One, never say, I don't know. The correct response is, I will get back to you on that. And then get plugged into a community that does know. And I know this sounds like an XYPN love fest, which it is, maybe because I love it so much. But if there's something I don't know, I learned something from visiting those forums every day. And it's amazing how much they have unique situations, unique questions, very, very specific. And they'll pop in there and sometimes it's pages and pages of information. Here's my scenario. And then everyone else is going to chime in and help them. Have you looked at this? Have you considered this? Here's what you might do. Watch out for this red flag right here if you go down this road. And that community really helps overcome that issue where, I don't know. And whether it's a marketing question, a compliance question, a financial question, that community has the answers. So it's just one of the powerful features of being in that community.
Thank you for that. Elaine, what are you most nervous about with regards to your business and what you're building? What keeps you up?
So the silly answer is silly, really, but it's a market. It's irrational this year. And the more I listen to it, the Fed increases 3 times interest rate. The market's going to be volatile. I've been that's not the right word. I've been educating my clients, showing them graphs and everything, but I can't control their emotions. So I am 100% sure that they're in the right portfolio, they're in the right place. But what I'm afraid of is I can't control their emotions. So, I need to educate them more and more. And the other thing I'm afraid of is not staying out of technology. Because what happens, Maddie, and this is why I'm afraid of, is if I don't jump on the tech wagon and I don't save myself 10 hours of time, then I'm not going to be competitive enough. If I can save 10 hours a week with tech, I can give those hours to my clients.
Right.
So that's what I'm afraid of. I just need to pump myself up, put some Guns N' Roses, or I don't know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, whatever it is, and just do it. That's what I need. Maybe Scott can be my accountability partner, just for this one. He
I
seems
could.
to be.
I can send you different Guns N' Roses song every day because I know most of them.
Yeah, maybe I could just send you, hey, Scott, I did 3, I did 30, I'm 300.
Oh, that's, I appreciate your openness around that, because that's a real pain point. It really is. Some people will say compliance keeps them up. Some people say getting the next client worries them, but for you both, it's really kind of the nuts and bolts of it. If technology is a huge part, just in the past 7.5 years that XY has been around, our whole platform has changed tremendously in terms of what we can bring each of you with technology. So let's ask another real question. I've heard time flexibility kind of coming out through both of you in your answers, that it's what you love the most. You've got time for recreation and kids and things like that. But how long does it take to run a firm per week for you, Scott?
So the nuts and bolts stuff, we want to say we'll throw compliance in there and the different pieces of software, the back office stuff, maybe just a handful of hours. But for me, it's a lifestyle business. So again, I'm not, and I don't need to at this point in my life, work the 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week that I was doing early on in my career. So it's really, you get out of it what you put into it. And for someone who's just starting out, maybe they're dual income, they've got a significant other that can support them while they're getting this thing run up. Maybe they do want to put in the 30, 40, 50, 60 hours in order to get it ramped up faster, which is awesome. Go ahead and do that. And then for the person who's more like, I want to treat this like a part-time thing, also awesome. So for me, maybe 30 hours a week right now is what I spend on the business. Beautiful.
Elaine, how about you?
Okay, so since I come from the corporate world, I am used to waking up in the morning. I mean, not that Scott doesn't. I'm sure he does wake up in the morning early, but what I'm saying is that I'm used to being sitting down, for 10 hours. And I guess if we're talking about real, I'm not putting the 10 hours in the IRA. I seriously, I'm not. I mean, I do a lot of marketing. I have institutional clients. I do podcasts. I do blogs. I do conferences for women, so, client stuff, maybe half of the time. And the other half, I'm doing marketing and things that I love. And some may argue, Elaine, is that revenue ROI? What's the ROI of all that marketing you're doing? Some of it doesn't really have one because it's what I want to do. So maybe it's considered a hobby. I don't know. I mean, half of the time right now, but I don't want it to be a part-time. I want it to be a full-time. So I see it as a full-time.
Beautiful. It may be my last question, but how well, Elaine, if you could give yourself an A+ or an F, how well do you think you've been running your firm in the past 6 months?
B-.
B-.
Well, I mean, operationally, B-. Like if you ask my clients, they'll give me an A+ because I give them all the service. I give them all the tools. Mm-hmm. Yes, it takes me, I'll use the same example. Maybe it takes me 10 hours or it could take me 2 hours. I make it look like it's okay, but I think a B- because there's so much room for operational improvement. Mm-hmm. I'm still doing my fees manually. I know that there's a button somewhere I can click and it does it automatically. I haven't done that yet. Yeah. The financial planning, I have 2 financial plan softwares. I still do them manually. So that's what I'm saying. Like my client sees a beautiful PDF with everything, but it took me a lot of manual time to do it.
Thanks for that answer. And I think it's an eye-opening answer after such a impressive conversation with both of you that this is the nature of being an entrepreneur, is that it may look all gravy from the client perspective, but you're running a business from behind the scenes. And that is hard. Scott, how would you rank your business?
I'm going to go the GPA route like I did in college.
Okay.
So I got A's in my computer classes, but I also failed calculus first semester. And English was okay. From the customers that I serve and the families, I get an A on that because they tend to be the focus. If for someone who's looking at a revenue standpoint, so wow, you've been in business for 6 months and this is it, they might give me an F. But from a lifestyle and how it fits with what I'm trying to accomplish, then I've got to give me a B, somewhere higher than that, because I'm building the business that I want to run so that I can spend time with my family, friends, travel, and do all these other things.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, cheers to both of you. I will give you both an A for this recording and this podcast. I think it's filled with some really tangible and beautiful insight from your experience just getting started. And maybe in a year or two, we're going to have you both back to tell us the new ranking of your business. But listeners, I really hope you learned something from Scott and Elaine today and their stories. Elaine, any final words to our listeners?
Okay, so here's a stat for those who are thinking about starting their own business. There was a study done that the return on your own business is at 13 to 14% rate of return. And I kid you not, I mean, I can't, I'm not going to give you numbers, but I make more than what I used to make on a W-2. So those two stats should convince you to take the plunge and do it. There's nothing really you can lose.
Good for you. Beautiful advice. Scott, any final words to our listeners?
Yeah, get your emergency fund in place and just go for it. Fear is the mind killer. And like Elaine was saying, there is no limit on the income that you can make with this. And there's no limit on the fun and the lifestyle that you can have along with this journey as well. And for people that are on the fence, you wait a year or 2 years, you're going to be kicking yourself and said, I should have started this a year or 2 years ago. Well, today is the day. So pick a date on the calendar and then just subtract 30 days to add a little bit more pressure to get a stake in the flag in the ground or whatever they say. get out there and go for it.
And you can find me. I'm sure Scott also is open for this. You can write me via LinkedIn. And if you want to ask me some questions, I may not have, hours to talk because, we have meetings and stuff. But if you want to send me your questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Beautiful.
I will as well, but I'll say no to LinkedIn. That's one of my no things. Like I don't spend any time on LinkedIn.
Interesting. Love it. Well, folks, we'll be able to link you to both Scott and Elaine's websites on the show notes today. But cheers to both of you. It's been a total pleasure to record this. Happy 2022.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you.
A firm isn't a firm without clients. As the Chief Marketing Officer of your RIA, the most important job you have is guiding prospects through your marketing funnel and converting them to clients. If your funnel has a leak, you could be spinning your wheels and missing opportunities. Mapping your funnel is the first step towards developing an effective marketing strategy and a valuable tool for evaluating the health of an existing one. Download our free template and map your funnel at xyplanningnetwork.com/funnel. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes, and finally, to find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You are not alone and you are not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm, and that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.